And now we will start our facilities meeting.
Good evening, everyone. Only one item on tonight's agenda, and I know we spoke last year about the roofing project and what we need to do district-wide. So because it's a moving target and I'm working with finance closely so that we can allocate the funds on and then prioritize what needs to be done next, we're only going to be moving forward or asking the board to move forward with finishing Plymouth Elementary in its entirety, so we'd have that roof completed for this upcoming summer, and then the 3-story wing of the high school would be the other piece that we want to do this summer. So that would change our total dollar value to a lower number, which is so we can all fall under capital reserve for funding the project. And then the rest of the project, as far as the other schools, and because the roofs are out of warranty, they're going to be kind of like a live document with like we do the 5-year, because we'll prep as best as we can, but unfortunately I don't know that we'll have the ability to say one roof is not performing as well as the other, so it moves ahead of another roof. You know what I mean? So the reality is it's just 2 roofs that we're looking to do, but Plymouth Elementary in its entirety, the entire building finished, and then we want to do the 3-story wing on PW this summer.
And real quick, I'm sorry, Joe, I forgot to ask if there was any public comment before we started. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead.
Was the roof done at all with the 2017 renovations?
Yeah, so the 2017 renovation, and I have that highlighted in a document, and I'll put it all on board docs for you. So that's not included with the project for PE because that's actually still under warranty. So when you say 2017, you're talking about Plymouth Elementary because there was the classroom addition. PW? Yeah, so when you say PW, we're not doing the gym roof. And we're not doing there's several roofing areas that were not done during the project. And that's one of them, correct. Yeah. I have it all highlighted. I can put it all on board docs for you.
Just a point of clarity, what are we not doing now with this shift? What is it that we are excluding at this moment?
So we're not excluding anything. We just tried
pausing or
right. Yeah, we tried to prioritize the absolute needs right now. So, and that's where we said most of the roofs are performing really well still, even though they're out of warranty, the majority of them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we won't have a problem if we have a bad winter and, inches of snow and slush sits up on the roof all winter. But again, that's why I said if the board just considers it a moving target, we're going to be fine. It's kind of like I said, it's like the rest of the 5-year. If you look at the 5-year plan, we set in place what we want to do in 2026. And then 2027, 28, there's plans for that. But there's always something that happens that moves that 27, 28 job to now. And then a now job becomes 27, 28. So that we can stay budget neutral. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Any public comment? All right. Seeing none, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Finance Committee. Are there any public comments on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I hand it over to Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. First is a policy. With it being the beginning of the school year, we always want to make sure we're updating our policies as the board's aware, or the committee's aware. And this policy is policy 616, payment of bills. This policy is going to document and basically describe exactly that, how the administration goes about paying our bills. There is one modification from PSBA language. You'll see that up on board docs under the authority. We're replacing the position of board secretary with board treasurer. This would allow me to basically advance payment if there is an opportunity to take advantage of a discount, such as a 2% discount, which some vendors offer, as well as approved payments for contractors, specifically through Mr. Lowry's office with things like the roof projects, as well as normal monthly utility bills to mitigate or avoid any late fees. Like I said, this is a pretty straightforward document in terms of payment of bills and a policy, and it's just us refreshing to PSBA language. This will be first read at this month's board meeting, with second in November.
There any concerns from a checks and balances standpoint in the treasurer/finance officer being able to draw payments towards something?
No, because every dollar amount, every check still has to go through the appropriate approval process out of each department. For example, if I want to do, let's say, a check to a contractor for the roof, it still has to come out of the facilities department through his executive secretary. Then Joe would approve it. Then my assistant business manager approve it. Then I finally approve it. This is just giving me authority to actually move on cutting that check, in an earlier date, basically.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I personally cannot enter an invoice, approve an invoice, and cut a check, as well as I cannot upload the information to the bank. There's certain controls in place within the business department to separate those duties.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that policy? Great. Thank you very much. Like I said, that'll be on for the October 1st read and the November 2nd read. Second item on the agenda is a brief overview of the budget timeline. As the committee is aware, we're right about to start our budget season with the upcoming finance committee meetings, as well as some of the budget documents going out to the different departments and the schools. Similar to the prior year, we'll have 4 budget presentations starting in January. This will allow me the months of October and November, December to meet with each department head, as well as school, to go over the needs and the wants and the per pupil allocation. The first thing that this committee has to decide is, as we've talked about before, the Act 1 index. It has been stated at 3.5% for this current year, and at the November school board meeting, we need to either opt into the Act 1 index, which would essentially mean that we would exceed it, or we want to make sure we just pass the proper resolution to stay out of it. I don't want to get too far ahead down the crystal ball, but over the next month, I'll be working with departments in the buildings to get a good look at where we're going to be in terms of that Act 1. But that'll be something for committee to give thought to over the next month and a half. As we move towards, like I said, the remainder of the budget season, we'll have our 4 presentations with following the same timeline as last year, doing an acceptance of the proposed budget in April, allowing us at least 30 days before the final budget acceptance in June of 2026. Any questions on that timeline?
How does the state not passing a budget affect our budget timeline?
That's a great question. We need to continue to move forward just as if they will have one for next year, even though we're waiting on the prior year. But we cannot wait, and we cannot delay our budget process. While the Commonwealth might be able to delay their budget acceptance and approval, we cannot. We need to have ours done and approved with a 30-day window by June 30th.
And I think over the next 3 to 4 months, you're going to see, depending upon each district's financial situation, you'll start to hear more about how districts are operating and able to operate, or therefore maybe not able to operate. We are in a position where certainly we can't, we certainly want the state budget passed, but we're in a situation where we can continue operations after the new year. But you'll start to see other districts, and many have already come out and said they're struggling now.
Theoretically, if we had to take part, and I know the state's offering short-term loans or bridge loans till the budget gets passed or something like that, that would affect current budget year, or like we'd have a loss of income because our cash position moves lower because we haven't gotten state funds. And would those affect this year or next year on those?
It would be a combination of both. Obviously, if we need to partner with one of our financial institutions for some of the short-term borrowing, that obviously has an impact on us from an interest expenditure. If it's short-term, if we make the decision to avoid using some type of debt instrument and using our reserves, then obviously that decreases our interest income. That's something that will, like I said, I keep kicking it down to January, February timeline, but we're hopeful, knock on wood, that they get it passed sooner rather than later. But to answer your question, I apologize. It would have an effect on current year budget, whether that's interest expense or decrease in interest income.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. I honestly just went through this, but I can't remember. When's kindergarten registration in terms of knowing like enrollment for next year?
That begins
January, February.
Okay, so by presentation like number 3, you probably have most.
We'll have a general idea where the enrollment
Okay.
is. While it opens in January, February, with the outreach through Karen Burke's office, it really starts to tick up in like March and April. Yeah. Okay. If I can move on to the final item, again, this is the 2025-2026 budget comparison document, and the theme of tonight is that there is still no Pennsylvania state budget, so therefore we are not receiving any additional monies. And on top of that, with the federal government shutdown, the federal government subsidies have also subsided. It does not affect the meal programs, as they are been funded for the next 3 months, just to alleviate any concerns for our low and free reduced meal participants. But from a school district standpoint, Title I, Title II, 3, and 4 that the school district has, as well as the Access Program and IDEA, all those funds are frozen. We do continue to run our programs just like we planned. We just, we're not seeing the deposits, the actual cash in our account. We're submitting for reimbursement, but like I said, the money just isn't flowing right now from a cash basis. Overall, we're at almost 78% of local revenues. Very strong real estate tax revenues. As you can imagine, interest income is down. And last year in September of 2024, we had a very substantial sale in Conshohocken, which brought our transfer tax revenues at a very favorable position last year. This year, not so much as of September, but if anybody read More Than the Curve, most recently, there was a large office complex just sold at 1001 Washington Street. You can feel free to Google that. So we'll see transfer taxes tick up in a much more favorable position next year. Overall, like I said, revenues are only at 64.7%, but that's because of the lack of federal and state funding. On the flip side of it, wages all the way down through benefits, very consistent with prior years, 10.6 and 10.5% compared to last year's numbers, very much on track and within expectations. Overall, on the expenditure side, not much really to report. With the refinancing of the bonds last year, we're seeing favorable results with our interest expense, down about $300,000 on Object 800. And everything else is either in line or within expectations from a budget standpoint. So, like I said, the overall theme of tonight is with the state government, Commonwealth government still at a budget impasse, and now with the federal shutdown, the revenues are not flowing in right. If there's any other questions on that, we can just jump to page 2 or 3. Like I said, the local revenues, the most material decrease is in our transfer taxes. You'll see the pilot revenue, which is the payment in lieu of taxes, that's decreased from an actual line item, but this is in relation to the court stipulation that had expired and rolled right up in the real estate taxes. We didn't lose it. It was just a reclassification into a different line item in terms of local revenues. I'm sorry, Mr. Carpenter, you have a question?
Which line item is the outside services for? Is it other services or is that professional services? I know it always seems to be like 210% of the budget, and I
that would be Object 300 professional services, which is our mandated and required contracted aides, the one-to-ones for special education department, as well as professional services of that nature. Like I said, not much else in the presentation tonight. Unfortunately, when we get down to state revenue, a lot of zeros. Federal revenues, again, a lot of zeros. And the overall expenditures, like I said, everything is pretty much in line or within expectation from a budget to actual standpoint. Any questions on the September presentation?
For meals right now, the last couple of years, breakfast was funded by the state. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then did that continue this year?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yep.
And so our plan is we're continuing to offer breakfast to all students, expecting the state to pass a budget to reimburse for it.
Correct.
Okay.
And the foundation is still covering a larger spread of, I believe, up to $10,000 over the federal income poverty lines. So Lori McCoy and her office are working with families that, while they exceed the federal poverty line, they're just above it, she's working them with the foundation to help cover, additional families in need.
And that's for lunches that they're covering that,
Yeah,
correct?
yes.
Great,
Yep,
thank
all
you.
meal program participants.
We'll recognize the foundation at the October board meeting. But they had a nice day yesterday, and I heard they earned in excess of $10,000, which will all go to continuing to help support our families with food insecurity.
So more to come next month on the state budget. Hopefully we'll be in a better position. But that concludes my agenda for tonight, Mr. Carpenter.
Great. Are there any public comments on tonight's meeting? Any board comments? All right, seeing none, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.